Hey everybody, John Peterson from John Peterson Photography, and I just got back from my first workshop of 2023 in Iceland. I took a group over there for some winter photography, and along with that I took my Fujifilm X-T5. This is the first major trip I've taken with it and first workshop I've shot with it, and so I wanted to do a short little video for you and talk a little bit about my impressions of the camera during this winter photography tour. And, you know, I've been a XT user since the start, XT1, 2, 3. I skipped the 4 because the 3 was doing great. I loved the dials. The 4 felt like too much of a hybrid for me. So I held off to see what was coming. So I was super excited for the X-T5 to come out. And so I got it sometime in December and took it off in January for a week in Iceland. So I want to just kind of run through some of my initial impressions of using this in the field in comparison to the X-T3 and how it performed on this workshop. So, you know, a couple of the pros, the positive things that I love about this camera, of course, is the image quality. You know, the 40 megapixels does a great job resolving a ton of detail. I was happy with the X-T3 for most of my work. You know, even at 26 megapixel, I was able to blow up the images into some fairly large sizes for prints, 24 by 36 and beyond. But with this, the amount of detail that I have in the images is just simply incredible. Absolutely love it. Super happy with it. The other thing I love, especially compared to the X-T3, is IBIS. You know, there's a few times in Iceland where we didn't have time to set up the tripod, we were running and gunning, there were reindeer, horses, or it was just simply too cold and windy for a tripod. So we handheld a lot of stuff. And having the in-body stabilization really helped me capture far more sharper images. So more keepers, and the ones that were keepers were far sharper than something I would get out of the X-T3. So love the IBIS. You know, of course, the size and the weight of this, very compact, very manageable, very easy to use. I spent a couple of days in Reykjavik walking around, and I was hand holding the camera the whole time, and just really love the compact size and usability of this. You know, and the last thing, of course, that I love, that most Fujifilm users love, is the dials on top. Absolutely love them. Love having this control right at my fingertips. You know, that with the X-T5, the dials have changed just a little bit. You know, where they've put the stills and the movie slider on this sub dial over here underneath shutter speed. But for the most part, you know, the dials work the same. And it was a really easy transition from the 3 to the 5 to use this. So I love having manual control at my fingertips without having to go into a menu system. So great camera to have with me. Absolutely happy. You know, I was super happy that I had a decent L bracket to go along with the camera. I found this and got it just at the last minute. So that was a big bonus because I do a lot of portrait orientation as well as landscape orientation. So, you know, I'm not a fanboy that'll just give you a glowing review. I want to talk about a few things that I wasn't as happy with on this trip. That doesn't diminish my love for the camera and my ability to keep using the camera, but there's some things I wanted to point out to you. So I think first is I noticed just slightly more noise in the image files coming back and than my X-T3. And, you know, the noise really doesn't bother me all that much because I can run it through Topaz products and get rid of the noise, and that's fine, but it's just another step in my workflow. So cramming that many megapixels on the same size sensor as the X-T3 has resulted, in my opinion, a little bit more noise. But the one thing that really, well, before I get to that last thing, let me just talk about a couple things. So, during this trip, I lost the hot shoe cover, which in, the 8-9 years I've owned all the XT cameras, I've never lost one before. And so with this, it came off real quick and easy, which kind of irritated me. And then I had I replaced the standard eye cup with a deeper eye cup, and that came off as well on this trip. And that's something that I've done to all my XT cameras, and never have I lost an eye cup through normal operation of the camera. I don't know where it came off, don't know when it came off, but it kind of pissed me off. So thankfully I had an X-T3, and I pulled the eye cup off of that to put on my X-T5. To kind of keep shooting. I don't really need an eye cup all that much, but it's nice to have. And but losing those two things made me kind of question the camera a little bit. But now here's the kicker for me. What I found over the course of a week using this camera, pulling it in and out of my camera bags, walking around with it, is that the dials move on their own. Just doesn't take much at all to change the settings on the dials. Granted, there's locks on the top of these two dials on shutter speed and ISO, but the sub dials move. So switching between single shot, high speed low, or continuous low, continuous high, bracket, that sub dial kept moving. Stills and movie moved once or twice on its own, in and out of the camera bag, but exposure compensation moved a whole bunch. And I use the same camera bag and really kind of do the same practices that I normally do, that I've done with my X-T3 and 2 and 1, and I never had the problem of the dials moving. So I'd grab my camera out of the bag, and we'll go up to the horses that are there, and I'll start shooting, and then I'll realize that my exposure comp is 1.5 over what it should be. It's just more things to have to check and deal with before I can actually start shooting. Because when I put it away, I knew what my settings were, and I knew it would be appropriate to just come right out of the bag and start shooting again, but no, that's not the case. So for some reason, the detents in these things just aren't as stiff as on the X-T3, so the dials move unintentionally. So every time, I eventually learned that every time I brought my camera out of the bag, I had to triple check all of my dials and all of my settings before I put the camera up to my eye. It was just one of those things. But overall, super stoked, super happy with this camera. I did a lot of long exposures, faster exposures with higher ISO because the wind was blowing and I was shooting the horses. We did some astrophotography, or some northern lights photography that I'll show you here, and the camera did great. It did great. We had temperatures down in 10 degrees, 5 degrees Fahrenheit with a 20 to 30 mile an hour wind at times, and even in that cold temperature, did not have a problem with battery life, did not have a problem with camera function. Even out in the snow, I didn't cover it up a couple of times when it was just sort of a quick shoot. And again, water resistant, did a great job shedding the moisture. And so overall, super happy with the X-T5, minus those few little niggles that I have that are kind of a pain in the butt, but nothing that's going to stop me from using this camera and enjoying it, because for me, the IBIS and the image quality are the things that really make this camera perfect for me. So happy I have it, love it, going to keep using it for a long time, hopefully. So there you go. There's just a few of my initial thoughts on the X-T5 during my first workshop of 2023. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Take a look at some of these sample images I have, and thanks for watching. All right, bye-bye.